Your home for the best coverage of the Jazz, Utes, and Cougars is right here on The Zone. This is JJ and Alex on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, everybody, welcome back. JJ and Alex, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Of course, it's that time of the year for us to be able to not just talk about the NCAA tournament, but to talk about how terrible our brackets went. JJ, back to you. I actually love it because if my oldest son won our family bracket, I'd be in real trouble.
Why is that?
Because it's the dad thing. You don't want to lose to, like, your son who is, like, going, I know more about this than you do, Dad. Come on. Don't.
So you got a little bit of an ego thing going on here.
Yes.
Okay.
I can't. It's like I can't let him beat you. Like
at least you admitted it.
Driveway basketball, you can't let him win.
That's fair.
Wrestling, can't let him win. Got to show him. Got to assert your dominance.
But if your sweet daughter kicks your butt in March Madness,
boom,
you're good with it.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Because then she's also kicking his butt, right? So right now, our 5-year-old Maeve is in the lead, and she has UConn picked as her winner.
Wow.
The two little boys are in second and third.
So she's a big Dan Hurley fan.
Yeah, she just likes his attitude.
She likes his
kind
style.
of the flair that he brings.
Yeah.
And the two little boys have Michigan in their championship, and they're right behind her. So we actually have some Skittles on the line here tonight.
Well, that'll be a fun night at that.
Yeah, gambling with
Curie
minors.
household.
It's great.
Teach them while they're young.
Yeah, that's how you do it with
Hey, Maeve, take the over.
All right, joining us on the program right now, he's put together a bracket or two in his day, and he's seen how things have shaken out, too, over time, and it's always good to have him on the program. Jerry Palm joins us on the show. Jerry, thanks for being with us, man.
Hi, thanks for having me on. I'm glad that I'm not competing with my kids.
I know.
Or,
see?
for that matter, your kids.
Well, that's what I'm saying is that
good
you know
luck
how it
beating
goes.
Maeve.
You know how it goes. And your situation, Jerry's even worse because they'll be like, I thought you were the bracketologist.
Oh,
like,
yeah, that's tough.
It's all over you.
That's got to be tough, Jerry, because everybody thinks you're the
That
expert.
my job is really predicting who's going to get in.
Right.
You know?
Then I walk away.
No.
It's good. So has it shaken out the way that in your mind you thought, hey, I mean, you've seen it all. So trying to predict a champion is really, really tough to do.
Yep.
The thing that shocked me the most this weekend was Arizona getting absolutely housed by Michigan.
Yeah.
We thought that was going to be such a competitive game, and I'll tell you, Michigan asserted themselves.
Yeah, they have. And as they have, by the way, almost the entire season in non-conference play. The first three games, they were a little bit closer because you're still, trying to figure out who's who. But after those first three games, and even including those first three games, they've won their non-conference games by an average of like 25 points.
Jeez.
Yeah, and they lost, to Duke. So, there's a loss in there. But they've just been, conference play was a little different. It was weird, watching that game as a Purdue guy because we just beat Michigan, and they're out there, just annihilating the team that beat us. So it was, just a little weird. But Michigan's been like that all year, and it's just, they were again against a team that you would have thought would have been much more competitive. And now we've got a great championship game tonight. Hopefully everybody's healthy. They said Solo Ball might be back. Yaxel Lendeborg has been dinged up and is probably a game time decision for Michigan. And it's not a good thing at all for Michigan if he can't play because he's very important to that team.
Oh, no doubt about that. Lendeborg is a likely lottery pick in this upcoming NBA draft. And you look at that team and just it's interesting, Jerry, because you watch these teams and you got two teams that have a lot of veteran presence. And with all the hype that's made about freshmen, doesn't it is, and you can comment to this, but when you're evaluating some of these teams for the tournament, how important is experience, even in today's age where you have all these freshman phenoms that come into the college game? How important is experience when it comes down to this time of year?
Oh, I think it means a lot, because you've seen a lot. Now, it would help. Tournament experience is helpful, but just being a veteran team, I think, is a big deal. And we've seen a lot of teams that are not highly dependent on freshmen, like Illinois is not. Keaton Wagler, obviously a great player, but they've got a lot of upperclassmen that are really good. Purdue, of course, was led by three seniors in the Elite Eight. Michigan They've got a really good freshman, but for the most part, upperclassmen, Arizona, two great freshmen, but on an 8-deep rotation at least. So, a lot of these teams, and of course UConn, Braylon Mullins hit the big shot to win the first game, but they're not relying on freshmen either. So the teams that are having the most success, at least in this tournament this year anyway, have been veteran teams.
Jerry, as you see these, how things shook out, and there were teams that I think we were all kind of surprised at. What are the things that really matter the most nowadays of making a deep run in the NCAA tournament? Because last year it was all four of the number one seeds that made it to the Final Four. This year it's like, not necessarily much better. You had a couple 1 seeds, and then you had a 2 seed that is a 2 out of the last 3 national championships, and then a 3 seed in Illinois that might have been the very tiny bit of an outlier here. Is the tournament getting less and less entertaining because it's getting less and less competitive with the little guys being left out real early?
I don't know that it's less entertaining, because good teams can be entertaining as well. But it's one of the things that I think is going to happen as time passes, and we've got all of the money in college sports flowing uphill to the major conferences, and by major we have 5 in college basketball, but what I'm really talking about is the 4 football major conferences. Mm-hmm. Really dominating the money, dominating the rules, and the administration of college sports, and I think it's going to become much more difficult for the little guy to compete generally. So, yes, they'll get tournament bids, but the 5-12 upset might be a thing of the past. The 6-11 upset, we had one this year. BCU knocked off Carolina, but maybe that's as far as down the bracket as you could reasonably go and expect maybe to find one upset. And, it's at the major conferences, those 4 in particular. And I even wonder now how long the Big East is going to be a major conference, because, a lot of those schools don't even play football. UConn's the only one that plays FBS football, and, they're not really a power in football. Right. So UConn needs to get into one of those conferences if they want to be able to, survive in this market, long-term viability in terms of just their athletic, success. And I think it's going to be hard for the Big East to stay competitive in basketball as time goes on and the money starts to really consolidate away from them.
Speaking of UConn, I mean, no one should be terribly surprised they're in this position. This is their 3rd in 4 years getting to the Final Four in a championship game, won those 2 titles. But you look at what they had to go through to get there, and beating Duke, beating Illinois. Illinois is one of the best offenses in the country. Yep. I think it's fair to say that they have exceeded expectations this year by getting to this game. How have they been able to do it? What's the key?
Well, the key is experience. They're an experienced team, and they know how to get to this point.
Yeah.
They've got players on this team that have done it. Caravan has been part of both champions. The veteran guys on this team have won a ring. So, and they don't really depend heavily on freshmen. I mean, Mullins has given them starting for them and given them some good play, but, for the most part, it's an upperclassman team. And, there's a lot to be said for experience in the tournament, success in the tournament, because you know how to win games like this, and that's not nothing.
Jerry, as you watch this season come to an end, what's the next step for college basketball when it does come to being competitive with being able to pay some of the best players? And we always talk about it for football, but what is that going to look like long term in terms of how it shapes what basketball is going to be long term with the amount of money that's come in? Well,
and that's kind of what I was alluding to before with the major conferences, really dominating the revenue in terms of what they can raise for themselves, in terms of what the sport is giving them, and especially in football. That's where the big money is. But if you get a lot of money in football, you don't have to put it all back into football.
Right.
You can put it back into basketball or softball or whatever it is that, you like to play and you want to be especially good at, you can do that with the major conferences. And that's why I'm afraid that we're going to see even more of an imbalance going forward as the TV money in particular feeds the larger conferences, the major conferences.
You know, if it was a 7-game series, Michigan probably wins that, but it's a one-off tonight between these two teams. What does UConn need to do well, or what must they do to beat a Michigan team that's a 6.5-point favorite?
Rebound, because Michigan is big. And, Axel Lindenberg has got to play for Michigan. I think it's a much harder job for them because he's the Swiss Army knife for them. He can play all 5 positions or at least guard them. And, that really makes him very important to this team. But Michigan is big. They're aggressive on the glass, and UConn's going to have to compete on the glass with Michigan because they can't be in a position where they're giving up second and third shots because Michigan is really good at getting those second and third shots.
We saw today in the coaching world the University of North Carolina basketball program go the direction of the University of North Carolina football program. Hey, this guy won at the highest level, at the professional level. Let's give him a hire. Mike Malone and the rumors of him being the next coach at North Carolina, what would a transition be like for a guy like Mike Malone to go to the world of college basketball after he won a title in 22-23 with the Nuggets?
Yeah, it's obviously a different sport, and it's important that he has assistant coaches that are familiar with college basketball. He just don't bring guys from the Nuggets. Go out and get some really good assistant coaches that can guide him, help guide him through the ways of college basketball as he's getting used to it, and let him just, coach the team on the floor and in practice. And that would really be helpful as he gets used to things like that. But, it's – and I guess he's got a connection to North Carolina, so all this talk of having to go outside the family may not have really come to fruition. But it took Carolina a really long time to find their guy.
Right.
And I would guess I would be kind of alarmed if I was a North Carolina fan that it took so long to find someone willing to take the job. But if he comes in and does a great job, nobody will care. Right?
Absolutely.
You're absolutely right.
He can certainly coach his way out of whatever talk that is.
Just win, baby.
Yeah, exactly. And that's but the transition, the NBA game is different than the college game, and we've seen coaches go both directions, and you don't see a ton of success. There has been some, but you don't see a ton of success, coaches going from one to the other. So, we'll just have to see how he's able to do. Obviously, the hardest part, the biggest difference is recruiting, which you don't have to really do at least not the same way in the NBA. So that's why assistant coaches in particular will be important for him.
We had Utah State hired Ben Jacobson here in Utah, and Ben Jacobson is a name very familiar to people that follow the game and what he did at Northern Iowa.
Midwest.
Yeah, right, exactly. Utah State continues to dip into the Midwest for their hires. What's your thoughts on that hire? What's your thoughts on Ben Jacobson?
He's a terrific coach. I mean, that's a great hire. And Utah State is a solid program at that level. Always competitive in the Mountain West. I think it's a great hire. As he's a good coach, won everywhere he's been at a program where they're used to winning and know how to win. So I think it's a great match, and I expect Utah State to still be competitive and successful in the Mountain West. I think it's a really good hire.
Is it pretty fascinating for you from afar to watch and see how Utah State's been able to continue to do this despite all the changes each and every year they've had to go through over the last 7-8 years?
It's kind of the nature of the beast. If you're successful in a league like the Mountain West, people are coming for your coach, and so you're going to be changing coaches every 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And but whoever is doing the hiring has done a good job picking out a good coach to replace the one that has just left, and the transitions have been smooth enough that you're not dealing with everybody hitting the portal and they still continue to win. They're doing a great job.
We're a couple hours away from this national championship game, and I've decided I don't know anything about how this thing's going to go now. Just because of it's not just like, oh, I'm surprised that this team lost to this team. It's also Like the amount of blowouts we've seen in this NCAA tournament, crazy. I certainly hope it's not that, but how much of a chance, because not a lot of people are giving a chance, I don't know how, to the team who has the last 2 out of the 3 national championships and a guy whose team already knows how to kind of get there. UConn is the underdog against this Michigan team that is just steamrolling people right now. How do you see this one play out?
Well, they should be the underdog. I mean, that makes sense. Michigan's been better all year, but, you count UConn out at your own peril. I mean, it would be foolish. UConn's going to show up. UConn's going to be competitive. I expect a pretty good game, but we thought that about the Arizona game too. As Michigan, man, when they're on, they're really on. They're going to be hard to beat. I picked Michigan in my bracket at the beginning, so I'm sticking with Michigan. But I'm sure that Dusty May was not really happy. I bet they'd have rather played Illinois than UConn in this championship game because UConn is a champion. And that's what they do.
The NCAA tournament, it looks like it's going to expand from 68 to 76. At least that's the word in both men and women. What are your thoughts on that? As an expert bracketologist and someone who's been a part of this for a long, long time, do you think we need to do that?
I am steadfastly 100% in favor of going back to 64.
Oh, wow.
I'm with you.
I like it.
I'm with you. But
so that first 4 just doesn't make sense, is what you're saying.
No. Look, I just somebody posted on Twitter. I reposted it. Overheard in Indianapolis 2 Michigan fans talking. It's like, if they expand to 76, that means Indiana would have been in the tournament. Who wants that?
That's fair. What are your reasons?
I mean, this Indiana team anyway.
Right. You make a great point. Like we already are seeing it watered down a little bit, isn't it? And they want 24 teams to play in an opening round. Obviously, we know what this is driven by, but is this going to hurt the quality of the tournament?
Absolutely. When you adding bad teams to the tournament, it does not make it better.
Right.
Yeah, but what if it's your bad team? But what if it's my bad team? I want my bad team in. Come on.
If you could add good teams to the tournament, a couple more 1-seed level teams or 3-seed level, if you could do that, that would make the tournament better. Adding to the bottom of the bracket makes it worse. The overall quality of the bracket is worse. There's just no way more is better. It's not. More is definitely worse.
Jerry Palm, awesome job, of course, the bracketologist we go to for all of our picks for the NCAA tournament. It's a really fun thing to be able to break all this stuff down and talk to an expert who also admits no way is he getting in the game of picking brackets and going against his kids and those things. We all have the same fear every year, even the expert bracketologist. Jerry, we appreciate it, man. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Jerry.
All right. Thank you.
There you go.